Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivy Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're going to be talking about the anatomy of the avocado flower. And the avocado flower is like no other flower type that I'm aware of. So if you know of another one that behaves this way, please write those down in the comments below. But you may notice behind me I've got this piece of paper here indicated as type B avocado, and this one specifically is called the Fuerte avocado, and we're now at the last week of March and all of these avocados are in bloom. Check out some of these blossoms. So this here is the Fuerte avocado. Let's check out the Hass now. And this here is a second year, definitely less than 3-year-old Hass avocado, and this one is a type A Hass avocado. And take a look at some of the blossoms that are happening here on this tree. And then lastly, let's check out one more. Follow me. And then this one over here is another type A avocado known as the Pinkerton variety of avocado. And take a look at with this avocado, which we installed about a month or two ago. You can see that we whitewashed it with the Ivy Organics 3-in-1 plant guard, and we also sprayed the leaves to prevent any sun stress. The sun has not quite made it to this part of the garden yet. Let's get started. Let's get started with getting past the myth of whether or not you need 1 or 2 varieties of avocados in order to successfully grow avocados in your home garden. Some research suggests that you need only 1 avocado, and I've also found other research that requires 2. The type A and the type B, sometimes referred to as pick one sometimes referred to as the male avocado and the other one the female, but that's not an accurate description either. And even when you go to pick up your trees from your local nursery, you'll also find conflicting information as well. Check out some of these labels. Start laying them down. Now let's check out these labels. Look at how conflicting they are. This one here, the first one, Hass avocado. The grower wrote, this fruit needs a pollinator. See back for details. You turn it over and it says, use one of these varieties below for pollination. Bacon, Fuerte, Jim, Mabel, White Cell, and Zutano. And those are supposed to be companion plants for the Hass. This one, on the other hand, reads, and this is for the Reed avocado, says, self-fertile. And then when we take a look at this one over here for the Fuerte avocado, it says, remember reading it before at the very top, says this fruit needs a pollinator. So does the fruit avocado need a pollinator, or is it self-fruitful, or what? And how do we make a decision? And how do we learn this stuff? Let me explain. Let's begin by looking at the anatomy of a flower, and let's check out these Fuerte avocado flowers that are here behind me. Check these out. So over here are a mass of flowers, and you can see that some of them are in full bloom right now, as this one is, and I've got my pencil here to point at it. This one over here, it's in full bloom, whereas the one a little higher, like this one here, already is spent. This one bloomed a couple days ago and is now since dried out, as has this one over here. And there's other ones in the far back that are also drying out, which I'm touching with the tip of my pencil, that have already burnt out as well. Let's take a look at another example of some that have spent. If you take a look in here, same situation. This one here is in full bloom. The one next to it is done blooming. It's probably started its bloom cycle about 2 or 3 days ago and is now closed, whereas these are going to still bloom in the upcoming days. This one here is not yet open. What I want to point out here now is I want to share with you the male and the female parts of the flower. So here we are in the light. I want to point out that the male part of the flower is on the side, and the pollen is resting on the stamen parts. So here's where the pollen would exist, right up in here, and it's resting on these stems known as the stamens. So this is the male part of the flower. In the center, on the other hand, which I'm touching with my pencil, is right here, right there, right in the middle of all of those stamens that are around it, is the pistil. And the pistil is the female part of the flower. And when the insect climbs all over the flower, the insect is collecting the pollen from around the pistil, and when it crosses its body with the pollen on it, it then touches the pistil tip. The pollen then finds its way going down the pistil to the ovary, which is at the bottom part, which will then form the fruit. So that is just a general anatomy of a flower, but there's still something very special about the avocado flower that's different again than any other type of flower, and let's discuss that now. Firstly, I'd like to give credit to the source where I obtained this graph, and it's from the ucavo.ucr.edu. If you take a look over here, it's basically the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resource Center that prepared this information, which I want to share with you, as I'm noticing that there's very little to no discussion as to exactly what is happening and what do I need to do to have successful avocado fertilization within my trees. So what I want to point out here is avocados are divided again into either a type A variety or a type B variety. There's only two types. The type A varieties, such as the Hass avocado, when it goes into bloom on that first day, the female part of the flower, so the pistil is receptive to receiving the pollen. However, there's no male or no pollen available to the female part of the plant, the pistil and the ovary, during the first day of that one flower. But yes, there are other flowers on the tree. We're going to discuss that in a minute. But then on day 2, what happens is the female part is now not receptive to receiving the pollen, but now the male part of the plant is functioning, which is the pollen off of the stamens is now available to the ovaries, or the pistil portion of the plant. So on one day it's a female, on the second day afternoon it's male. Again, first day morning female, second day afternoon male, and that's how one flower on the tree behaves. On the contrary, the type B avocado, such as the Fuerte avocado that we visited in the garden, is a female part of the flower is receptive to receiving pollen, but again, on that first day of that flower, there's only female function, whereas on the second day, there's only male function in the morning of the second day on that same flower. Now, if we take a look at two flowers, like you gotta, take a look at the fact that the avocado is typically in bloom for at least 2 weeks, if not 3. And during this bloom period, there's gonna be flowers that are gonna be overlapping over time. While they're overlapping, let's say we've got day 1 flowers and day 2 flowers on the same tree, there's still a conflict, and check this out. On the morning of the first day, it's female, but if there's some flowers from the day prior, so now it's day 2, those male functions on the plant are only active and available in the afternoon. So it's even on the same plant with both day 1 and day 2 flowers happening at the same time, it's only the female function that's available in the morning and only the male parts that are available in the afternoon. It seems like a conflict, and I don't understand the evolutionary concept behind why would the plant evolve in such a way, and how did it possibly I understand how it made it to continue to exist to this day with this conflict between being, for example, the type A avocado, female in the morning and male in the afternoon. And when it comes to the type B flowers, what's happening is on, let's say, the second day, we now have male function in the morning and female function in the afternoon. So again, the plant is behaving totally different between the morning hours and the afternoon hours. And because of that conflict, again, it just seems weird. How did it possibly evolve? And what's the evolutionary benefit for doing such? Just such an interesting way of pollination. But I'm now going to explain how the plant has successfully evolved with this unusual conflict in regards to the way that it flowers. But let's get on and I'll explain to you a little bit more with another demonstration. Follow me. So I'm here next to an orange tree, and I just want to explain that the normal way of pollination, if you come in a little closer, is as follows. You can see over here in the flower, we discussed the stamen, and on this one, the stamen are again surrounding all the way around the pistil, which is in the center. And the pistil, you can see at the very top, is very, if you touch it, it's actually very sticky. And the goal is, as the bee is traveling over the flower, the pollen from the tips of the stamens is going to get onto the tip of the pistil, and the pollen then travels down the pistil, bringing its half of the genetics to the ovary, which is carrying the other half of the genetics, to then create the seeds if it's a seed-bearing, type of orange. There are seedless varieties, but that's room for another topic. But it's that pollination between the pollen and the ovary to then create the fruit. The receptiveness of the pollen to the ovary, with more than 90% of the flowers, if not 99% of the flowers, it's available to one another from morning until night, pretty much 24 hours a day, unless the flower closes up, at night, as some flowers do. But the pollen and the ovary are always available to each other at all times when the flower is open, so that when the insect comes and travels, that pollen immediately is available to the ovary. But that, I just want to explain, is the way that I would say 99% of flowers accomplish pollination and fruit production. Let's get on to the next. When it comes to the concept of the pollination between the type A and the type B avocados, and when we take a look at the chart over here, we can see that in the morning of the type A's, it's the female part that's receptive, but in the morning of day 2, it's the male part of the type B that's receptive. So by having a type A and a type B, and between day 1 and day 2, in the morning hours, there will be both female on type A and male from the type B available in the morning hours. And then in the afternoon hours, it will be the type B avocado will have the female part receptive, and the type A in the afternoon will have the male parts receptive. So by having both types A and B, they'll at morning time have both male and female parts receptive, and in the afternoon, both female and male parts also available at the same time. That is the value of having a type A and a type B avocado in your garden. And again, by doing so, you'll be able to enhance the success of pollination within the ovule of the flower to create and ultimately produce healthy and delicious avocados. By having just one variety of avocado, you'll still produce avocados. And like I said, the only difference between having one and then having a different type, being if you have a type A and having then a type B avocado in your garden, is you'll only increase production by about 5 to 20%. Without it, and as confusing as all this sounds, and it seems like evolutionary, how and why did it do such a system of pollination? It seems like, that this type of a system would ultimately lead to the demise of the avocado, but somehow it's worked. If you have any theories or ideas as to why this would be beneficial, and one of the biggest issues that I see in regards to this chart is this over here. If the insect is pollinating, and this is on the type A avocado specifically, but if the insect has visited the flower in the afternoon, collecting pollen on its body, the only time, according to this chart, that the flower is going to be able to receive the pollen from that type A avocado, if you only have that one avocado, will be the following morning. So that insect's going to have to carry that pollen on his back and hopefully revisit that same tree the following day in the morning, and then pollinate the female part of the flower, which is the pistil, which leads ultimately to the ovule, and then the cycle continues. But this just seems as such a detrimental, poorly designed business plan, if we can so call it. Let's get on to the next step. Check out this bee that's pollinating the flowers behind me. Take a look over here. It's not just honeybees that pollinate the avocado. In fact, it's also flies, and there's also another insect which I'm going to share with you right now. You'll take a look at the flies pollinating, and you'll also see what's called a hoverfly, which is also in the fly family, and even though it looks like a bee, also pollinating the avocado. I recorded these earlier. Check these out. So when it comes to pollination, pollination is a combination of genetics between whether you call it male and female or just two different parts of the plant coming together. The pollen carries, just like in the human genetics, half of the genetics to create the avocado, and the ovary is the other half of the genetics to create the avocado. And together, their genetics are combined to then create the future avocado fruit. The seedling that's inside of it, even though it came from the Hass avocado, is not a Hass avocado once you plant that seed. That seed is the combined genetics of two different parts of that parent plant to create a future generation of avocados. Whether it be superior or inferior, you're going to have to wait at least 7 and possibly 10 or more years for that seedling to be mature enough to support avocados on its own. So when it comes to planting seeds, you got to be patient unless you graft it or unless you take off of your parent variety an air layer, which I can put some videos down below on how to perform that, or cuttings. But when it comes to avocados, cuttings are not as successful as the other two methods of propagation, being air layering as well as grafting. Now let's talk about pollination. Check out this example that I have over here. So I have over here a few spices and a Q-tip. And the example I want to share is that if this is the type A Hass avocado, and this here is the type B Fuerte avocado, and this here could be some citrus pollen, for example. And again, these are just samples. And this Q-tip is supposed to be the body of the insect, whether it's the honeybee that we saw earlier or the fly or the hoverfly. The Q-tip is going to be its body that's crawling through the flower and collecting some pollen, which is the male part of the flower. And then it's going to go and visit another avocado and roll around in the flower, within the flower, and collect some other pollen. And then it's going to go and visit, let's say, the citrus trees and pick up some more pollen. And as it's working throughout the day, it's now got pollen from a type A avocado, pollen from a type B avocado, and some other pollen from other trees in the garden. At the end of the day, what's happening, and as this insect is migrating throughout the garden, what the avocado is gaining, even if you just have one avocado, and this is the reason that it just takes one avocado to have many successful fruits in your garden, but two avocados, especially if you've got a type A and a type B avocado, will enhance your success by another 5 to as much as 20%. I'll explain why in just a minute on that. But in regards to just one variety being capable of supporting and producing a very successful amount of yielding avocados, the way it accomplishes is by those insects. Those insects that visited the plant in the morning is carrying the pollen that it's then sharing with the flower in the afternoon. Let's take a look at the graph so I can explain this a little more clearly. So before you go out there and start shopping for an avocado, I want to cover this one other point before I share a couple other helpful tips. I've got these two labels which we picked up from the growers, and as you can see here, we've got Hass avocado and the second one being a Fuerte avocado. We know that the Hass avocado is a type A avocado, and with the type A avocados, let me explain real quick. I think it says over here, it says this fruit needs a pollinator, but we know that that is not accurate and not true. But and it says see back for details, and I want to share with you that with the Hass avocado, they're recommending, and it doesn't matter what variety of type B avocado you have, but these are just a few varieties to look for when you're looking for type B, which is the Bacon, Fuerte, Jim, Nabel, White Cell, and Zutano. Those are all type B avocados. And then over here for type B, we got Fuerte. And again, it says this fruit needs a pollinator. And we know the answer is not true. But we'll see the back for details to see some varieties of type A avocados, which include Green Gold, Gwen, Haas, Holiday, Mexicola, Pinkerton, which we've also got in the garden, Reed, and Stewart. So let me share a couple other helpful tips. Let's get started. So last year's summer, we've had several episodes of record heat waves here in Los Angeles, California, resulting in stem burn, leaf burn, and I'm going to share a couple of those examples. But first, take a look underneath this cluster of flowers. You'll notice under here, take a look at this burn that happened to the stem. Check this out. And even though, so this here is some sunburn damage. And let's take a look at another example. If you come up a little higher over this cluster of flowers, you can see how it's cracked and damaged the tissues over here, where my finger's touching right there. Take a look at those cracks. This is damage to the bark. It may have actually damaged all the way down to the cambium tissues, which are the vessels that transport the sugars in the water throughout the plant. And what's supporting now the rest of this growth, which is lower down here, is from the underlying side, which is in this shade. All of this could have been protected with an application of the Ivory Organics, and it's a 3-in-1 plant guard where you just add water, and it's protection against damaging sunburn and insects and rodents for use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. And it's a non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic product, and it's now also registered material for use in organic agriculture. The product is available either in white as well as brown and green. And once you open the can, it comes with these powders of either brown or green or white, in addition to this oil vial. And the oil vial contains 7 natural organic oils, which include castor oil, cinnamon oil, clove oil, cedarwood oil, garlic oil, peppermint oil, and rosemary oil, all oils which help naturally also defend against insects. So one is to protect the plant from sunburn. The second one is with the oil is to help repel insects from entering the damaged wood and potentially hollowing out the center of the stems or the tree trunk, depending on where that damage is. So what you're going to do is once you add water to it, you're going to end up with a solution like this, which we're then going to use and apply with our brush. So we're basically going to come in here and just want to show a little example of how this would now protect your plant in organically protecting your plant. Many people just simply use latex paint to accomplish the same, but this here is an organic alternative that one offers the sunblock protection as well as the defense against insects as well as rodents. And we can just do that. Let's take a look on the back side of the plant. I want to show you the stems that were coated also last year to see what that has since looked like, and check out also these suckers that we're going to have to remove. Let's take a look on the other side of this Fuerte avocado. Follow me. So again, here we are at the end of March. The root system is now warming up. The soil is warming up. The cytokinins, which are the hormones in the root, are now wakening up the upper branches and saying, hey, it's time to flower, it's time to leaf, it's time to grow. Those are all happening and being controlled by the root system that's pushing this growth into, giving this plant a lot more height, structure, and strength to support many more years of fruit. But as it's doing so, in the spring, you're going to notice that your tree trunk is going to end up creating a lot more suckers than you otherwise would see the rest of the year. If you come in a little closer, you'll notice all of these new leaves and shoots that are being created along the tree trunk. And take a look at that. And what you need to do is you can simply, while they're young, you can actually just knock them off with your fingers like so. And we're just going to clean the tree trunk by just pushing off all of these suckers. The graft to the Fuerte avocado is right over here. This here is the rootstock, which then has grafted onto it the Fuerte flavor. It's not as easy to see, and the older the plant gets, it's going to be harder to distinguish, but you can almost see a little bit of a coloration difference between the rootstock and then the scion wood, which controls the flavor of the avocado, to make sure that we're going to have an excellent quality avocado here in our garden. What I'm now going to do is the bottom When we installed this plant, it was only about 4 to 5 feet tall. So the top 2 to 3 feet of it were covered with so many leaves that we're only able to paint the lower part of the tree trunk with the Ivory Organics. And if you take a look at the stem, you can see that it's got a little bit of lightness that's still on it. You can actually see, you know, some hints of the Ivory Organics that's still held. And it was very waxy and green last year. But now as the wood begins to harden and create a layer of bark, we can now more easily apply the Ivory Organics to the plant. And you can see that even with those exposed surfaces from that bud that we removed, we've now coated it to prevent the possible entryway of any beetles or termites or any other types of insects that may want to work their way into the tree. So we're just going to continue cooling the plant off like so. I'm now going to take my time later on and properly coat the lower part of the tree trunk. Another concern with avocados, as the temperatures get into the upper 90s and into the hundreds, this is more of an issue in the inland part of Los Angeles, or I know in Arizona, in Texas. When those higher hot days come, these younger leaves will, one, begin to wilt and melt and sometimes even burn. Let's take a look at a video from last year, July of 2016, to see some of the damage of what happened with the summer heats. Check this one out. Today we're going to be discussing sunburn. Sunburn on plants. Plants have actually suffered, as people do, first, second, and third degree burns, and we just had a record hot weekend this last weekend here in Los Angeles, California, and the trees have actually exhibited stress as a result of that extreme heat, as I'm going to show you here with what I'm standing next to is my Haas avocado tree. And if you can come and zoom in over here, you'll notice here on the leaves that they've turned charred and they're almost crispy. This is damage that just happened a couple days ago. And here's another leaf that is completely wilted from the stress. You can see the ends are still alive, but some of the leaves have been damaged. And with this young tree that's only been installed about a year ago, that's a major stress. And then to this side, we've got a Fuerte avocado tree. And if you take a look at the tips again, and again, it's the furthest ends. This was all melted and wilted in the summer heat. But you'll notice, I'm trying to find it here. If you take a look at the tips, you can see they too got burnt. And one last plant I want to share with you is right here. You can take a look at the Bear's Lime, and you can see all the brown parts of these leaves that have actually burnt from the heat as well. Here's the weather in Los Angeles today, and you can see it says 77 right now, going up to 90. And on Thursday we're looking at 88, 90, 93, 97, and by Monday next week 100, more 97s. And so what we're going to want to do is to basically create a sunblock for these plants so that we can get them through those worst days. It's just way too hard, and we're in the month of June, and I'm actually going to coat my entire plant with this product called Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard Paint. So here we are now in front of the Haas avocado tree again, and what I'm going to take now is this Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard solution that I've made. It's a dilute sunblock, and we're now just going to spray the leaves. And this will now keep the plant cool even on the 100-degree day. Just as we're going to be escaping the heat and trying to find some shelter, this plant is going to be stuck in the sun. So this here will keep the plant cool while the roots continuously get established, and so it continues to grow and not be stressed or possibly, you know, killed by the extreme heat. So take a look now and zoom in on these leaves. Try to see if you can actually see the drops of sunblock that we've now got on these leaves. Take a look at that. See that? We just did that all the way up. And you'll notice that the tree trunk we did at the time of installation, we've painted it with the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard paint to basically keep the tree trunk cool too. As we discussed in the video, you could create a spray, a foliar spray using the Ivory Organics, and this is that product over here. Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard. You spray on your trunk, branches, and leaves for protection against, again, damaging sunburn and insects and rodents. Ideal for newly installed plants and trees. And also, if you know for sure that there's going to be a heat wave coming up, you can actually spray your plants and keep them far cooler than they otherwise would be just exposed to the extreme heat. And let's take an example, like for example, take a look at these leaves that are unsprayed. This is new growth that just came out in the last week or two. And we're now just gonna shake our Ivory Organics over here and spray that on. And take a look at what we've created. And you can see that we've got now a nice light film of what is like an organic sunblock spray to help keep the plants cooler. And this will help prevent the wilt and the burn as what happened last year, July, when the extreme heat wave came to Los Angeles. So the pollinators are doing what they do best, pollinating the flowers. And many of you have asked, when is the right time for adding the Ivory Organics foliar spray? And the best time to not interfere with the bees would be by applying it early enough in the morning that it dries onto the plant before the bees visit the plant, or you can also apply it in the evening hours when the bees have returned back to their hives. So that would be the best time for applying Ivory Organics, early morning, late afternoon. This week we're going to be discussing fertilizing your avocados and citrus, and I've got some additional tips which I've learned in the last few weeks that I want to share with you. So be sure to subscribe below so be connected to all these other educational gardening videos. Thanks again for watching, and happy gardening.